What up, YouTube? This is Building Better Lives podcast coming at you once again. And before we get started, if you can do me a favor and subscribe to my channel and hit the like button, it would really help me out. But what I wanted to talk about today is why men are walking away and why people are losing their absolute mind about it. What you saw recently going around online is a video of a mixer where it was a singles mixer, and it was the poster said that there was no men that showed up. I think a little bit later some men showed up, but it was majority women and very little men. And people are talking about why that is. I mean, the truth of the matter is men are not going to go to a mixer. That's first and foremost, right? I mean, obviously the person could have the promoter could have not advertised it correctly. I mean, it's a possibility, and she could have been exaggerating, but the overall concept of why men are not showing up to these mixers, these single mixers, is because of the quality of the women that's going to be there. In all honesty, a man likes to hunt, right? And if a man's going to put in his time and effort to go after a woman, he's going to try to get the most high quality woman that he can possibly get. And the type of women that come to these mixers, unfortunately, they've blown their shot, because you got to think, if a woman is going to go to a singles mixer, that means she doesn't have many options, unfortunately. And a guy may not have as many options as her as well, but it doesn't scream to him that's somewhere I need to be, unless you're looking for low hanging fruit. When you look at things like these single mixers and things like that, where they're trying to put couples together, the majority of women that are going to be there are just low hanging fruit. And if you're a man on top of your game, you're just not going to go to that. There's nothing there for you if you're looking for a high quality woman. And like I said, the women that are there, and I mean, they may be single mothers, with multiple children, or maybe no children, but they've reached an age where they're no longer winning, right? The DMs are not on swole. The offers that they used to get are just not there. So now they're willing to, lower their standards. But by the time they're willing to lower their standards, they've had so much baggage, and they still want you to perform for them, right? Those women that were at that mixer, if they were really serious about getting a man, they would go to where the men are, right? They would make themselves available to the men that they want. But instead, they go to something like this mixer, and they're expecting men to come in there and to perform for them. I mean, if you look around at the video, the women are just sitting there. They're not even interacting with each other. And I saw a comment on by one of the people who saw that video, and it's like, if this was a single man's event, you would see groups of men together, right, talking, cutting up or whatever, and they might have been mad, like, man, this common term, this is a sausage party, but they still would have been talking to each other, right? These women are, she pans that camera around, you just see women just off to themselves. They're waiting to, I don't know what they're waiting for. Obviously the men are not there, but imagine that you're a guy, you walk into that area, and these women are just sitting in, at tables or off to themselves. They're waiting for someone to come up and perform for them. And that goes on, to some other videos you're seeing, or women are so adamant about what a guy has to do to date them, right? And my man MTR summed it up in one of his videos. He calls us, women want us to be court jesters. They want us to perform for them, right? And for you to want us to perform for you, and you want a traditional man to spend his money on you, wine and dine you, pretty much stand up for you, but you still want to be a modern woman, how the hell is that going to work, right? What kind of logic is that? You want me to be traditional in being the provider, being the one who carries the majority of the weight when it comes to dating, asking you out, taking you to the place, paying for the meal, being a complete gentleman, but you don't want to be a lady, right? You don't want to be submissive to this man. You don't want to follow his lead, and you don't want to stop showing off yourself to the world. What am I getting as a man when you're a modern woman, right? You get your own money. That obviously I don't get none of that money. Because that's not what you want. You don't want no broke man. You don't want no man that you got to spend money on. So when you saying an independent woman, you got your own bag. Okay, great. You don't share your bag, right? And two, you want to show your goodies off to the rest of the world. I mean, which is fine if you want a modern man. You want this guy who's willing to, sharing the responsibilities with you, and you want a guy that still puts himself out there. If you want that type of guy, you can get that type of guy, but you can't in the same breath say you want a traditional man with traditional values, but you're not a traditional woman, right? And I mean, I talked about that a little bit in depth in one of my other videos, one of my older videos, but the truth of the matter is, what kind of exchange are we having here if I don't get a traditional woman, but I still have to live up to the conservative values that you expect from me as a man? I used to date someone years ago, and prior to us getting together, becoming an official, and becoming in a relationship with one another, we talked about traditional values, right? We talked about what they wanted and what they were brought up to expect from a man. And until I'm a traditional man, I was brought up and raised traditionally. So I was like, cool, that's not a problem for me because that's how I live my life. Now, herein comes the crux of the situation. In turn, she presented herself as a traditional woman, cooking, cleaning, taking care of her man, blase, blase. All right. So then it came down to execution. And it was sometime. It was not consistent, right? And I'm not the type of guy that's going to expect you to, cook every single day, non-stop, no breaks. But if I am fronting the majority of the household bills, you don't have to pay anything in the house. You're living off of me. If something happens, I take care of it. If an emergency comes up, that's my money being spent, my time, my resources, and that is day in, day out. So, like I say, 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, month after month, 365 days a year. I don't get to take a day off from being a man, because if I take a day off, we're living on the streets, right? If I take a day off, there's no lights, right? If I take a day off, there's no food, right? So all of those things are consistent. I can't take a break. If an emergency comes, I can't say, well, babe, you got it this time, right? Because as a man, is what you're saying that you want from a man, I got it. And you have the option to help, right? I don't have the option to provide. I can't wake up in March and be like, you know what? I'm taking the whole month of March off, pay all these bills. It'd be great, it'd be fantastic if I could find a woman that was like, you know what, baby, I got the bills this month. Don't worry about it. Especially like, for a birthday month or something, some grandiose gift that a woman would do for a man. I mean, ladies, if you're listening, it's probably something you should think about doing, especially to a man that is a provider in your life. You know what, baby, don't worry about it. I got all the bills this month. I've been putting money away. You do whatever you want to do with your money this month. It'd be a fantastic gesture. But more than likely, even if you get a fantastic girl, it's never going to happen, right? The most you can hope for is that she looks out for you from time to time, and she makes sure that your belly's full and she's doing her job as a mom or a wife or whatnot. Most you can expect. Anything else over top of that is, it's gravy. But I digress. So, like I said, she wasn't consistent, right? Some weeks she would cook, some weeks she wouldn't. And this would go on, and it began to bug me Because it's like, well, this, what the heck am I getting for my sacrifice that I'm doing, right? If I have to do everything and you're here as a woman, what do I need you for? All I'm doing is taking care of you and me, and I'm not getting anything in return for that, right? And this is the attitude that a lot of modern women have, right? You have guys who can actually take care of you. I mean, it may be few and far between, but even if a guy doesn't have to make a serious amount of money, he doesn't have to make a couple $100,000 a year to be able to financially take care of a household, right? Especially if you have a partner that's willing to work for him and support him, right? But what is he getting by putting in those hours and not seeing the benefits of his money, right? Because if you're taking care of a household, you can't have a project car on the side, or go buy a watch, or any other your other toys, because you're like, well, I got to put my family first, right? So what is he getting? And women will say, well, I carry his child. No, that's our child, right? It's not like when the child comes out that it's just mine alone. So what's the excuse you saying, oh, I carried your child, so that's all that's all I have to do? Because the majority of the time these women are not staying at home, right? They're not foregoing their careers to raise children. Some are, but most aren't. I mean, obviously these women are in college for all this time, and one of Kevin Samuels used to say, you're in school over and over again, and then but you say you want a man and you don't want to work and be responsible for the money. Well, what the heck are you going to school for? All right, you want to have your own money? Okay, great. So you want to have your own money. You don't want to spend none of that money in the household. And if we have children, you don't want to homeschool them. You don't want to watch them the first 5 years of life when they're most impressionable. You want to still work. You want to drop them off at daycare, and you want to continue to live your life. But I still have to take you on vacations. I still have to foot the majority of the bill. And you're like, well, you get kids out of this. No, we get kids, right? Prime example why I say that, because when Mother's Day come around, everybody, goes overboard for mothers, right? Not so much for fathers. They just don't, And I saw something earlier where it was saying that a lot of women want to claim Father's Day too, and they're like, well, I'm being the mother and the father. No, you're just being the mother. And it's okay if you're a single parent to say, you're being a great mother, but Father's Day is for fathers, right? Stop claiming that you're both. You can only be one parent. Even if the other parent's not around, you can only be one parent. You can't be the mother and the father. You will have to excel in your role as the mother, and that's okay if you're excelling in the role of being a single parent, but understand that a majority of the time when women saying they're single parents, they have the other parents around. It's not all cases are deadbeats. I mean, some are, and all you're proclaiming to me on Father's Day when you say you're the mother and father, that you chose poorly as a woman on who to have children with. That's not something to glorify. You know what I mean? That's not something to glorify on Father's Day. I'm handling mine. Well, you chose poorly. You decided to give, your womb to a man that wasn't hitting on anything. And now the rest of the world needs to praise you for making that decision. Okay, you're being a decent human being. And that's what, if you're taking care of your children, it's not a plus. When you add that on your resume, I take care of my kids. That's something you're supposed to do. That goes for guys and girls, right? You don't get to, exclaim on Mother's Day and Father's Day you're a great parent. So what? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to raise your children and provide for them, right? Now, anything you do above and beyond that, extracurricular activities, making sure that they're having the best possible experience as a child, and sacrificing yourself for them. All right, and now we can talk a little bit. You can get a little bit of praise for that. You're balancing, your career and being a child and being a single parent and the child's not suffering, okay, hand clap. You can definitely get that. But, I say all that because fast forward, rewind to, what we're talking about the mixer. We go on this whole tangent. Think about that as a man. Why would I want to deal with that? Why would I want to go out of my way to deal with someone who, A, is bitter, because she is a single parent, and she's dealing with all of this, and now she has to go out there and procure a man. I use the word procure, intentionally, because if you're going to a singles mixer at this particular point, what you're saying to me is that I need to have a man in my life to help me, right? I don't want a man, I need a man, right? And if you need a man, that means that any man will do. I say that because I have, for years, dealt with women. There had been some single mothers mixed in there, where all they saw from me was that I was a decent man. They didn't care much about, what else I had ticking. You know what I mean? They would use phrases like, I see you're such a hardworking man, and, you have your stuff together, and da-da-da-da-da, all those qualities that they need to, those check boxes are filled for them to say, hey, I need this type of man in my life now that I've blown my 20s, and now I'm approaching 30, or I'm in my 30s, and I need, a stable father figure for my children. He fits the bill. That doesn't make me feel great that you think I'm a decent man, because, what else do you like about me? If you can't tell me what else you like about me, why should I be with you? If you're using the qualities that majority of men should have, just being a man, to describe why you want to date me, that tells me everything I need to know about dating you. You don't want me, you need me. And I imagine some men would want to be needed in a relationship. I don't want to be needed. I want to be wanted. The reason I say I want to be wanted instead of needed, because needed will have you resenting somebody, right? She'll be dating me if she needs me, right? And not really loving me, but having more of a resentment that I wish I could have the man I want, but I'm stuck dealing with the man I need, and I can't leave him right now, right? Those are the type of women that date you until the kid's grown. And then they're back out in the streets because they never really wanted to be with you, right? So why would a man subject himself to that? Why would a man say, hey, I have my resources together, I'm able to take care of myself, let me go and share my resources with an ungrateful woman? Not saying all, but that's why the majority of men are avoiding those situations, avoiding areas where people are looking to hook them up with, single women. It doesn't scream to us that we need to be there. It's like, this isn't the first time you've had, single mixers. A lot of churches used to do that, and probably still do that. A lot of social groups would do, this is a singles group or singles mixer. It just screams desperate. It does. Unfortunately, it screams desperate to men. And the men that go there know that this is going to be low-hanging fruit. Like when a man goes into a church to find a woman, unfortunately, it used to be like, oh, you can find a good woman in church. No, you go into church because this is the last stop where every woman in there is praying to get a man. So he's going to go in there and snatch the low-hanging fruit, right? Because the women who are high quality are not in church looking for a man. I'm not saying they're not in church. They're just not in church looking for a man. They have offers. They're sought after. And if they use their, time and resources correctly, they'll be married off before that time comes. If you squander your resources, you squander your value as a woman, and, the time comes, because it comes on all these women. I hear it so often. Women say the same thing, and, Kevin Samuels would roll on them in his podcast. You sitting there in your 20s, and you're thinking that you're going to find a good man in your 30s and you have all this time, let me tell you something. Time waits for no one, right? And it doesn't take a bunch of time to make a mistake. Let's look at an example. Let's say you're a 24-year-old woman. You just graduated from college. You broke up with whatever your college sweetheart was, because you wanted to experience life. You're entering the workforce now, and you said, I got my whole life ahead of me. I don't want to be, getting married at such a young age, right? 6 years flies by. Now, in those 6 years, because you wanted to experience life, you probably dated some guys that weren't worth crap. And you may or may not have a child by that point. If you have a child, you're already taking a hit, because unfortunately people don't want to suggest it. A child is a hindrance, because the majority of the time the child's with you, which means that you can't go on dates like you want to. You have to be a lot more selective on who you bring around the child, which, understandable. And some guys don't want to date women with single children because they're not, A, because they don't feel like they're getting anything out of it, and B, they're not the center of attention. Which means that, if he calls you and he wants to go on a spur of the moment thing because he don't have kids, and I'll go into detail about that. He wants to do something spur of the moment because he don't have kids. You can't do that. You have to plan around it. And unfortunately, you've put yourself in a position to where your value is just not as high as it once was, because you chose to say, hey, I'm not going to deal with the guy. Well, we're perfect for each other in college because I'll find, someone later. When the majority of people prior to, modern day, they met their life partners in college, or in, early 20s, late teens. These are the people they married. It's only today that we have this idea that, women can wait until their 30s and find a man. Even if you don't have a child, you're bitter, because you're bringing all that baggage and relationship drama that you've had for those past six or so years since you graduated. Some women graduate a little bit earlier, 22 to 24 years old. You're finished with, school, graduate school and all that. And now, fast forward 6 years, 6 to 8 years later, and now you have all this baggage. You don't trust men. You have a history, and, let's face it, women expect men not to, care about the history, when some men do. And unfortunately, the men who have the most, the men that you want to date, they're the ones that care the most. And it's because they look at their woman as a prize, right? Just like a woman should look at a man like a prize, a man looks at a woman as a prize. What prize is he getting is if she freely gave it to everyone. It is a fact that women want to dispute, but y'all can't change that. No guy wants to date a girl that everybody's been with. No guy wants to say, this is my wife, if all his friends, or, friends of his friends have seen her in the most compromising positions. Because what that means to him is she's never been selective, right? She's never, that speaks to her mindset. If she's been a loose woman, a promiscuous woman, that speaks to her mindset. That means to him, how can I trust you to all of a sudden now, after dating all these guys, to be faithful to me? In his mind, it's an impossibility. Now, all guys might not think like that, but a majority of them do, and majority have done that throughout society because it's been a survival thing, right? The promiscuity thing has been an issue because before DNA, that was the only way to make sure that the child was yours if she wasn't being promiscuous, right? And the crazy thing about it, statistics today is a third and the men of America are raising children that they believe are theirs. A third. 1 in 3 guys are raising children that they believe are theirs, but they're not. So why would I take that risk on dealing with someone who has those tendencies? It's not conducive for me as a guy. And two, the other part of that was you had a bunch of guys. Unfortunately, I may not be the guy that can get your rocks off. I may just be the guy that's stable. Because what happens when you get in your 30s? Oh, I want a good guy now. Because you didn't had your toes curled, you didn't had your back knocked out, and now you want a good guy because those guys that were able to do those things weren't able to provide you, with stability, right? So now here comes Mr. Stability. He may be okay in the sack, but he don't make your toes curl. You gonna forget about that? You gonna forget about, Chad and Tyrone that had your toes curled? No, you won't, and that itch will come again. And unfortunately, if you're not able to walk away from that type of guilt, or not guilt, but that itch, then that guy's looking forward to a divorce in his future because you're just not happy. He just don't do it for you. He's not the type of guy you like to deal with. It's not the type of guy that turns you on, but it's the guy that was holding you down. And a lot of times, woman's not able to make the switch. But like I say, that just all stems out why a lot of these guys are walking away from these type of scenarios, because they don't want low hanging fruit. Because low hanging fruit used to be able to say, well, I guess me some low hanging fruit. She'll be pleased with me, and this is someone that she don't have a lot of options out there, so I'm her option. But even then, a low hanging fruit now is, look, I need someone, but once I secure you, I'm still gonna go out there and get my rocks off. So you're not safe, so why even take that risk? Anyway, guys, if you like the content, please do me a favor. If you got this far in the video, please like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you can get all my upcoming videos. Once again, this has been Building Better Lives Podcast. Thank you, guys.